well, I am here with Dustin Kerr. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, Dustin Kerr, aka Perplebunny, at the Perplebunny Axe House in Invergrove Heights, Minnesota, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation I'm going to have with Dustin about axe throwing and his role in the axe throwing community and his role as a entrepreneur in the axe throwing business as well. Just a little background, one thing you might not know about me is I run an axe throwing league at another venue in Minnesota called the Borough. It's over in Oakdale. So that's how I met Dustin, and I have, I already know some background information on Dustin's story. It's a really cool one. That's why I wanted to take some time to talk to you today, Dustin. So first, just give everybody kind of a quick background that obviously I know, but for those who don't, your sort of experience and significance as an axe thrower in the community and as a competitor as well.
Okay, well, it's a lot. I'll try to keep it brief. So I started right before the pandemic began. They had built an axe throwing place near my house. That in case was Minnesota Axe down in Eagan. They remodeled the theater. They turned one of the theaters into an axe throwing. Gave it a shot, really enjoyed it, kept going back. Got a little expensive to keep going on a weekly basis. So I actually applied for a job as a coach. So began coaching. Leagues began about 2 months later. Got into the competitive side of things. Really loved it. And then the pandemic hit. Loved it so much though I wasn't going to let that stop me. So I built a target in my yard, practiced during the pandemic. When things started letting up, convinced the venue to start smaller leagues, got back into the competitive side of things. And from there it kind of just took off for me. So I spent time coaching, some time throwing, got into both sides of the league, so both IATF, which was Eagan, and then WATL, like with the boroughs, and began traveling that year to tournaments. Had a ton of fun. The community is amazing. Hoping to drag you to some tournaments this year so you can see that yourself.
Okay.
And since then, I kind of really fell in love with the sport, which kind of leads over to why we're sitting here now is I kind of wanted to build a venue that I would want to throw in, and I wanted to make this kind of it went from being a passion to a vocation for me. And so now I run a place and compete, which means I'm very, very busy.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like a lot of work. Obviously, I know that it's a lot of work just from doing a little bit of that myself.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I really like about your venue, from what you've told me and from what I just see looking around, is you have really managed to build a community here. If I look behind me, we've got all of these signatures on these used boards, and that's something that not every venue does this, obviously, and it definitely gives people sort of a sense of ownership and belonging in a place like this. So can you tell me a little bit more about these and some of the other stuff that you do to really build a community here?
Yeah, this I actually kind of stole the idea from where I first started coaching. So Minnesota Axe does the same thing. I think it comes down to the way the targets are built is what kind of lent itself. As you may know from WATL, you actually use all 5 boards for your target. IATF only uses 3 boards, but it behooves us to have 2 sideboards anyways, just to catch stray axes that fly out there. And instead of just having nothing beyond them or have them just sit there and do nothing, they have them sign them. And I think Minnesota Axe actually got the idea from Detroit Axe, which helped them form. And so it's just a kind of a tradition in the community and culture that I'm trying to carry forward. I think you'll see this more often in IATF venues, the signature boards. WATL venues will typically have kind of milestone boards that you can sign, like your first 50, your first 60 game, your first 64 game, when you're throwing your perfects, or your first kill shot you hit. And so they do that. And I like to do something like that too, but like you said, it kind of gives people ownership. People love coming back. Some people actually, if you look close enough, will put the date they came on here. And if you're willing to hunt around, there are people who have signed these boards 3 or 4 times. Every time, they love to kind of put their name on it, and it's just a lot of fun. So the fun thing too is something that's a little bit different from IATF and WATL is IATF has a lot of what we call axe names. It's kind of like a throwing personality. That's why, like Perplebunny is mine. It's something that I've had for a long time and kind of carried over to axe throwing. But that's why you'll see a lot of names like Axe Blaster, or they'll throw axe names up there. And those are also really kind of fun. Lumber Baby.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I love the idea of those nicknames. I come from a background in esports, so obviously gamers have their gamer tags or alias. So obviously a very similar idea, and I really like that as sort of an avenue for self-expression, right? Like it shows off your personality. It gives sort of a way that you want to present yourself to the world. And in something like axe throwing, it's not like you're drawing on the board. You don't have a whole lot of leeway in terms of how you throw the axe to express yourself. So I think that name definitely can give people that connection. I want to ask about your name, the Purple Bunny. Obviously, you've got the logo on your shirt, and you've got the logo outside, and I saw the really like buff-looking, scary bunny guy. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you came up with the name, and then kind of how the logo came with that, which was first, and all that?
Yeah, sure. So you mentioned gaming. So I'm a little older than you. I was gaming back before esports was a thing. So 20 years ago, that actually was a gamer name I had, but it came from a guild I started once upon a time. So while I am a very competitive person, I love to compete, and I'm very over-enthusiastic about it sometimes, but I also rarely take anything seriously. I'm a very fun-loving guy, jokes around a lot, and so I was in a game where people just were taking themselves way too seriously. And so I'm like, you know what, I'm going to create a game where I'm just going to kind of F with people. And so I'm going to pick an animal no one picks. Like, I wasn't going to pick a dragon or a dog or like all these big, strong animals. So I picked a bunny rabbit, something that was typically viewed as harmless. I'm going to pick a color no one picks. No red, no white, no black. Those are all very, very common. I'm going to pick purple. I'm going to spell it wrong. You can't see it here, but it is spelled P-E-R-P-L-E. Just kind of mess with like the grammar Nazis that used to ride these games. So I had purple bunny rabbits, and that was good. But for a guild name, it just wasn't quite over the top enough. So the guild actually became the Purple Bunny Rabbits of Doom, and Doom had 7 O's in it. So just really kind of hang on that vowel. And just had a lot of fun. No one took me seriously until like 3 weeks into the server when I'm like number 3 on the leaderboard. And all these people have to explain why they're losing to this dumbass guild named Purple Bunny Rabbits of Doom. It made me so happy. And so I did is when I went to a new game, I carried it forward. Now, unfortunately, that name is way too long for a username. So it got shortened down to Purple Bunny. So the short answer is I love when people have to explain why they lost to some guy named Purple Bunny. It makes me feel like I've won twice.
That's awesome. And does that carry over? Do people kind of have that, like, oh man, I lost the Purple Bunny in axe throwing, or are you just such a legend now that they kind of are not so taken back by it?
Not so much. I'm known enough now in the circles, both famously and infamously, that I don't think people are surprised. When I first started, it probably was a little more traumatic. Like one of my favorite stories to tell is I went to, one of the first tournaments I went to when I first started getting competitive was the regional championship out in Detroit. Went there, I won't explain the story because I'll come back to it, but I won it. Next year I go back, I walk in the doors, and one of the ladies I'm talking to goes, oh wait, you're Purple Bunny. He goes, I thought you were a girl. And I laugh, I'm like, why'd you think that? He goes, well, all anyone ever said was Purple Bunny this, Purple Bunny that, da da da. I'm like, wait, what are they saying about me? He goes, oh yeah, you're Jemmy's nemesis. I'm like, I know Jemmy, we compete together, and I actually had reached out to him previously to open a tournament, or to open a marathon league before the tournament. As we did this, I'm like, so, and he's sitting across the room, and I'm like, hey Jemmy, like I hear I'm your nemesis. He goes, yeah. He goes, like, what the fuck, dude? And he goes, like, dude, like you came out of nowhere last year. No one knew who you were. You got drunk, won the tournament, drank some more, and then just drove out of town. He goes, I'm like, yeah, sounds like me. I mean, no lie. But it kind of left a mark on them. And I swear when I went into that second year, like the whole Detroit crowd was like, there's no way we're going to let this dork beat us a second year. And they did. They beat me.
Okay.
But they were driven.
That's good.
But by then, I think the name of Purple Bunny had grown. There are some people, for various reasons, don't like me. But I'm a loud, very outgoing personality. So I'm a love or hated kind of guy.
That's awesome. You started to gain some infamy at that point. And to my understanding, you are pretty infamous in all the axe throwing circles, at least in the continental U.S., Canada, all those kinds of areas. I kind of want to dive deeper into that, but I think it would be useful to give more context to those who don't know the sort of different WATL, IATF kind of different competitions that there are, and why that division exists. And you said that you compete in both of those. So I think after that we'll kind of go into how you've done it in each different sort of realm there.
Sure. So the two main organizations are IATF, International Axe Throwing Federation, and this is just kind of a global affiliation. That's kind of the way to best describe it is they're a collection of rule sets. and then WATL, which is the World Axe Throwing League, which is the other one. It'd be easy to describe them as like the AFL and NFL, except the rule sets are very different as much as they are similar. I won't go too much into the rules because it's a lot easier to have a target behind you when you're explaining that, but needless to say, I'm an IATF venue. It's the Minnesota Axe where I started coaching is also an IATF. It's kind of where I first got started. I think the reason I got into WATL is because during the pandemic, IATF, which is based in Canada, and this might be a cultural thing, they really leaned heavy into let's be safe. So they weren't holding tournaments. They weren't really doing leagues. They were respecting the lockdown mentality. Let's lock down. Let's get through this. Don't come out of it. WATL did not have that mentality. They opened up sooner, especially in the South and in the United States. And I won't say they're being reckless, but they just a little bit more aggressive about opening up than IATF, which means when the competition was rolling around, me and a friend I had at the time kind of switched over to WATL so we can get to the competitive side of things. So we enjoyed the competitions. And because I want to say we accidentally qualified for the World Championship.
You accidentally qualified for the World Championship?
Well, we had thrown a single league as a duels partner, and then we had thrown another league, and then they had qualifiers for the Worlds come up. And we're like, fuck it, let's try it. And we did, and actually got a high enough score that we got a bid. But now we're like, crap, we've never thrown a tournament outside of our local league tournaments. And as you can imagine, local league tournaments and even regional tournaments and like the national tournaments, very different feel, very different vibe. Competition's a little more fierce. So we're like, well, before we show up to Worlds and have Worlds be our first tournament, let's go out and find some other ones. And so we started getting into more of the tournaments. And in fact, I just got back from a tournament that was kind of near and dear to my heart, because one of the first tournaments we went to was called the 80-35. That year it was hosted in Des Moines by Ironside. And it's called that because it's nothing fancy. It's 3 events, so it's $35 per event, or $80 if you sign up for all three, the 80-35. And then it since then has rotated where venues are. So this year it was in Lincoln at Kraft Axe House. So I got to go back there and compete in the 80-35. So we did that tournament, and then we did one out in Asgard, which was in the Dells. And then we went to Worlds. So literally our third tournament ever was the Worlds. But we had a blast. Thankfully, after that year, IATF opened back up. They had more tournaments going on, and that's when I got to go out to like Detroit for the regionals. The U.S. Championship in Pittsburgh was, if anyone, that's one tournament I'll recommend to anyone. That's still my favorite tournament of the entire year, other than going to Toronto for the international one. So they definitely have some different feels. They have different vibes about how they are done. Let's start with WATL. They kind of present a desire where they want the sport to be professional and seen it as something legitimate at that level. I don't know if they're aiming for like cornhole level fame or if they're trying to go all the way up to like Olympic level archery style competitions. But they want that. Fortunately, that also kind of puts their tournaments a little bit more in a serious note, so they're a little more quieter, a little bit more, I don't know how to describe it. It's just lower energy but more serious. Like a golf tournament, Yeah, exactly. Okay. And a great example is, and this is, I know you might mention this earlier about whether we want to lean into this a little bit. I've actually gotten a letter of sanction from WATL for cheering too loudly and dancing at a tournament. I was just having too much fun. It happens. You're having too much fun at the tournament. Yeah, no fun allowed. This is so serious. Okay. Mostly what happened is because there's a lot of loud people too. I can name like Scott Biddle. He has an iconic laugh that you can hear across the room. Great guy, full of energy. And there's other people too, but I think I just happened to play someone that really loves the quiet golf mentality. Mm-hmm. And I'm a very loud, outgoing personality, if you've picked up on from my time with the Burrows. Yeah. And it just rubbed them the wrong way. And so it just blown out of proportion. But it happened. IATF, on the other hand, I think recognizes that they're a bar sport in the lines of darts and pool, and kind of lean into that more. They're more rambunctious, loud. Their tournaments have just a ton of energy. I know Matt Wilson, the current commissioner, probably shakes his head every time there's a live stream where you see someone chugging a beer during a match as they're competing. In fact, one of the first tournaments I saw on YouTube that really got me in love with the sport was watching 2 people at the international competition like snake arms, like the iconic couples things, and drink a beer while arms are entwined and during a match. But they were having fun, and that part of it really tickled me. And because I'm competitive, but I love the fun. I love the seriousness. And so that's why I think for me, I tend to gravitate way more towards the IATF side of the fence than WATL. Fortunately, WATL has a much bigger presence in the Midwest area of the States. So if I want to go to tournaments and I don't want to go all the way out to the East Coast, I'm doing WATL tournaments as well. So, but we'll see. With the new rules changes next year, I think I'm going to be competing less there. But
sure.
And that's also one reason. That also leads into one reason why I built this place is because if you don't like something, change it. Right? I didn't like that there was not enough IATF tournaments in Minnesota, so I figured the best way to do that was just open my own venue and host my own tournaments.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So I want to talk more about the venue, but before we get
Yeah.
to that, you mentioned a little bit about watching live streams of tournaments on YouTube and stuff like that. Obviously you can watch both styles of for those that don't know, kind of, can you explain how and where each style is, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not style, it's format, association. Yeah. What would you use? So
the biggest change is, the biggest thing you'll notice if you ever watch streams of either one of them is IATF, 99% of the players will take a step during their throw. They have a throw line that you have to start from behind that's further back that you can step up to. WATL has a foul line that's way closer that you can just stand right on top of. So with WATL, as you know from Burroughs, you throw from a 12-foot line. IATF, you start behind a 15-foot line, but you can step up to a 9-foot line. So a lot of people want to get closer, want to be more accurate, so they take steps. It's not required. Most people just do it. So, and it goes from a, WATL is a 10-throw format for a match. IATF is 3 rounds a match, 5 rounds a throw, so they have 15 throws in a match. It gets a little weird when you get to competitions for WATL because then it goes best 2 of 3, and so you might see 30 throws in a match for them, and then IATF goes in tournaments to best of 5, best of 7s. So you can see anywhere from, doing math in my head, 25 throws to 35 throws. So that's where it gets a little confusing, but normal league play, 10 throws a match for WATL, 15 throws for IATF. For a newcomer, they're about equally as hard for different reasons. You're probably going to end up with higher scores in IATF just because, one, we have more throws, and the format lends itself to hitting a bullseye more often. WATL's bullseye is an 1.5-inch red circle that you just have to break the paint. IATF is a 7-inch circle that you just have to get the most of your axe into. So you can get more perfect games in IATF easier. Does it make the format easier? No, because every other Yahoo you're throwing against can also throw just as well. So IATF is kind of a marathon in that way. You have to be able to throw perfectly or more consistently well for a longer period of time than you would for WATL. WATL with a 10-match format, a drop can ruin a game. You hit a 4, all of a sudden you're out of the running because it's a little more wonky that way. So they can have different strengths and different weaknesses in that regards.
Sure. And then in terms of actually like watching them, WATL is on ESPN. Is that correct? Is it still on ESPN? I thought it was maybe not going to be.
So, well, WATL also has WKTL, the Knife League.
Right.
So knives and axes used to both be on ESPN. As of this year, knives has been dropped off ESPN.
Okay.
Hatchet still is on ESPN. WATL pays to have their 2 main tournaments broadcast on ESPN. I think they actually have a 3rd broadcast now because they do a Commissioner's Cup, which is more of a skills funds event, and that's on the Ocho. Because of course the Ocho. I think their main event is still on ESPN3, at least for this year. They're actually, funny you mention that, as of this weekend, as we're doing this, they're actually currently over in Appleton, Wisconsin right now doing their Pro-Am tournament, which is an ESPN televised event.
Oh, cool.
So you won't see any broadcasts today because today's knives, but once we get to Saturday, it'll be a hatchet and duels and big axe, and those will be on ESPN. Actually, I say on Sunday you'll see the finals. They don't actually televise the plebes like me.
I see. So if I want to watch IATF, where's the kind of the place for that? Is it live or recorded? What's the best way to do that?
YouTube is the best. They do a really good job streaming it. I think they would love to get broadcast out on a much larger network, but I think they want to make sure that it's done correctly. And so right now YouTube is the best throw, and that's best way to go. Sorry, best throw. And that's also kind of a big difference. I think that you see kind of the formats now is that WATL has been kind of tailoring their format to ESPN so that they can kind of be a very televised ready thing. And why IATF can have people chugging a beer in a lane because they're broadcasting directly on YouTube. So yes, YouTube is the best way, and there's a lot of YouTube streams. IATF will post their own; they have their own channel. But like Ace Axe Throwing, who hosts the U.S. Championship, does a really great job streaming a lot of their league matches, their tournaments, and they're production level. So if you want to watch some of that, I'd recommend Ace.
Okay, awesome. Let's bring it back to the venue that we're sitting in here,
Yep.
the Purple Bunny's Axe House in Invergrove Heights, if anybody wants to come and visit. So you tell me about exactly when you opened this location, your sort of process for getting it started, and kind of how things have gone in the so far since you've been opened.
Sure. So the origin story was I knew I wanted to open it because I loved axe throwing, but the pandemic was actually the impetus. I knew the pandemic was going to, sadly say, shut down a lot of small businesses in the real estate market, and the real estate would get cheap coming out of the pandemic. So I kind of waited for the pandemic to let up again, began my search, and then we found this place. Actually, again, by accident. We originally were targeting a place up in White Bear, but I didn't want to put all my eggs in one basket because that negotiation was going kind of weird. So we started looking at some other places, and my realtor actually convinced me to at least open my mind to a front-facing retail location. Originally, I was looking for like warehouse space, mixed-use warehouse, because they can get it for cheap. And we did this place, and so we were talking to the realtor, and the old landlord wanted to sell this entire strip mall, but he wanted to sell it full because you can get a better price that way. So he was willing to really negotiate down low to get me in here, and so we did. We came in a really low-ball offer, got accepted. They worked with us really nicely to get the things remodeled. You can't, it might be able to see it from where you are now, but this actually used to be 2 different units. So where we're sitting now used to be a vape store.
Yeah, well, it's got 2 doors, so it makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, and then like that right there, that's steam there. And you can tell that the concrete's different because there used to be carpet over there. So on that side was a spray tanning salon.
Okay.
Which is the other reason, if you look up at the ceiling, I have way more ventilation than I need.
Yeah.
So took down the wall, raised the ceiling over there to match them up. And they gave me basically a box. And I built in the lanes, which are, you can't see on the camera, they're not very fancy. I'm building with OSB and 2x4s. So I wanted to focus on the things that were more important to throwers, which is the target wood itself is cottonwood, it's soft, it's high quality. The axes we use are generally of better quality than most other axe throwing places we have, because I wanted to have things in there that I would throw legitimately. And so all that stuff I just stood up. So we opened doors officially on last year, Memorial Day. So we're roughly coming up somewhere between a year and 18 months right now. So it's been a journey. It's been fun.
So a year and 18 months, and obviously you're still here, so you're doing well enough to keep going here. Is this something that you see yourself just kind of building this up for a while, or do you have plans to expand? Are you going to be a chain? Like, what's your aspirations for the future of your business?
I am looking to expand, mostly because running the numbers, the only way this becomes my full-time gig is if I have 2, more like 3 of these places open in order to afford me not working a day job. So yeah, the goal is to get to three locations. We are currently focused heavily on this one, but we're keeping our eye on to what we want to do for the next one. And we're learning from what we did this one. It's currently 3,700 square feet of space. The next one I would want to be a little bigger, closer to the 5,000 mark, because I'd want to put in a bar. As people in the axe throwing know, and you'll probably learn as once I drag you out there, is axe throwers are drinkers.
Yeah.
Not having a bar is probably why some of the people that would come do a corporate event here go to the Burrows instead.
That's fair.
Yeah. No, we lose corporate events to like the Burrows and to Flannel Jacks because we don't have a bar yet. We're currently in the middle of applying for a liquor license, so it is coming. So hopefully I'll pull back some of that business. But
okay. All right. Well, we'll have to step it up over at the Burrow to keep up with you over here.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So
the one thing I'll interject here is the one reason why this has been as successful as it has been, and the reason why we've been able to do it for as cheap as we have is leaning a little bit on my brand, and why I named that for myself is the community. I had a good community of people that I trusted and trusted me out of Minnesota Axe where I started, out of Bad Axe where I've thrown leagues, or out of all the various venues. They've come here to support me, and I appreciate every one of them. But I've had league members when I was building this place coming in here and helping me swing the hammers, and I use it as a metaphor, there were no hammers involved, it was all drills.
Sure.
But they were here helping me build from the very get-go. And so the community has been, like I said, amazing. And that's why I'm a league-focused guy, I'm a community-focused guy, and that's actually why we want the vibe of this be very community-focused. That's what makes us a little bit different than some of the other venues. A lot of them are owned by chains or they're owned by bigger things. Like the Burrows, for instance, not knocking them, but they're a little bit geared towards more fun, casual rec.
Right.
Your sister store in the mall is definitely aimed at tourists.
Yep.
So it has a different vibe, which is not a bad thing, different market. I'm aiming more for, we have fun, don't get me wrong, we have a ton of fun, but we also have a lot more serious throwers, and we give them those serious throwers more of an opportunity to grow here than perhaps they would get a chance at Burrows.
That's fair. So I noticed when I walked in here, you've got kind of a freestanding target here in the middle. Is this something that works differently than the rest of your venue? Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, that's actually a demo unit. We sell those as take-home kits for people at home. So during the summer, again, I'm gonna keep saying this, a lot of what we do is we backed into it by accident. We had a remote event where I had to go ahead and build targets, but I want something I could easily transport and then set up as little hassle as possible. So I came up with that design as a modified of, like I said, one can claim any originality. I modified other people's designs, but I made it simple enough that I could carry in the back of because I don't know a truck, so the back of the SUV, and move out and set them up and throw them. And so once I did that, we brought them back here, and now I all of a sudden had two targets that I didn't know what to do with. Well, we ended up selling them last year to two of our league members that wanted targets in their yard. And we're like, there actually might be a market for this, because yes, it's fun to come here, but coming into a venue every time you want to throw can get expensive. You got to travel, whatever. So this year we've been marketed these kits so that people could actually buy them and set them up in the yards. And we sold 8 to 10 of them this year. And a lot of people on the business side will kind of laugh and well, doesn't that hurt your business because now they're not coming in to throw? And well, yes, that's true. Where we tend to make money is those people that have targets in the yards are a little bit more serious about the sport. Those are my league members. They'll come practice at home. They'll come throw league here. So I'm getting money that way. But then also they buy target wood from me. So that right there is just the kit. So as you can imagine, we sell the target boards that get screwed onto the front of that. So we sell them the boards here because it is really hard for an everyday user to get a 4-foot cut board of cottonwood.
Right.
Pine you can get any day long. Hardware store has it. No one wants to throw into pine. It's a terrible experience. So we sell them the cottonwood boards because we have them here, and we'll pre-paint them for them, so we just kind of make it easy. And so we get a little bit of money that way. And for me, though, it grows throwers. People who are throwing at home are going to be a little bit more anchored into the sport. They're going to keep on throwing. They're not going to be one-and-dones. And so we sacrificed probably some money up front to get some money in the back end, but the real goal was we grew the sport, we grew the community.
That's awesome. I think that makes perfect sense. Now, tell me a little bit more about your approach to kind of building a community here. And when you go out there, you said you're this loud, rambunctious personality that some people love, some people hate. Do you have to change that approach at all when you're talking about your venue in order to kind of appeal to everyone, or do you feel like you're just yourself and that brings in the audience that vibes with you?
Yeah, honestly, it sounds bad, but the reason we named it Perplebunny's Axe House after me was at a certain point I had name recognition in the community. I had a brand, and I wasn't going to run away from it. I wasn't going to sanitize myself. So we just leaned into it. No, I do not tone myself down for anything. I will heckle and shit talk just as much here as I do at a tournament in Pittsburgh. And I actually encourage people to come here and do the same. I'd rather axe throwing be fun, energy, loud. Again, this is why me and IATF vibe so well, because they that energy that's just, I'll keep coming back to that because that is what drives us. And I know it's there because I'll bring, this year we actually, a little plug from how awesome my venue is, we actually sent the first female from Minnesota to the international competition this year. She got the bid not accidentally. She was our 7th alternate. So 6 other people had to turn it down for the bid to slide all the way down to her. Mm-hmm. But she took it. She got her passport, like a last-minute emergency passport. She came with us. She was going into this very aware that she was clearly outmatched. Her first match was Dave Alviso, the Connexkin. And if I have name recognition, he crushes me. He actually ended up that year taking number 2 in the international competition, losing only to Rander. And the way he lost, if you ever get a chance to go watch that match, and understanding how hard premier rules are, like he threw, I think 6 27s in a row. 6 perfect rounds, not missing a shot, which is fucking ridiculous in Premier rules, and lost.
Wow.
And I'm sure that keeps him up at night. It would keep me up at night if I did that. But he was her first match, so she was about to get blown out of the water. And normally you would think that going in there and just getting completely crushed would kill your joy for the sport. But the people she got to meet, and I introduced her to as anyone I could, and she, probably exhaustingly so for her. When she came back, like her was set. Whether she qualified to go for the tournament again this year, she was going with us. She'll throw in the side tournaments. She would do whatever she can. She was going with us. It was just that much fun. And we had the same experience when we brought people to Pittsburgh. Phoenix, one of our throwers, went to Pittsburgh. She's hooked now. Once they go out there in that larger community and that energy and the funness and just how welcoming everyone is, you kind of fall in love with the sport at a whole new level. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to get involved with axe throwing, obviously if they're in the area, they could come to a place like Perplebunny's Axe House or the Borough or whatever. I mean, obviously, I think more serious throwers are going to want to come here. I think you made the case for that, and I begrudgingly agree. If you're trying to get into competition, this seems like the place to be. But if you're not in this area, if people watching this or listening to this outside of Minnesota, what's the best way for them to find the right venue for them, or should they start at in their house with just a plywood nailed to the tree? Like, what's the best way to do it?
Yeah, I would find a venue. I would find an affiliated venue. So we've talked about WATL and IATF. That's affiliations. So there are venues that are affiliated to both. Borough's affiliated to WATL right now. I'm affiliated to IATF. That kind of means that we have to adhere to a certain set of rules and standards. Our targets have to be a certain size. They have to be drawn the right way. The lines have to be drawn there. So that if you were to go from a WATF event like Borough's over to like US Axe in St. Cloud or to I know other places. American Axe is in Atlanta, for instance, way down there. It's the same experience. You know, the lines are going to be the same. You know, the target's going to be the same. You get the same experience. You walk into an unaffiliated venue, it's the wild, wild west. You do not know what you're going to get. But the inconsistency is why I would tend to not say avoid them, but if you have an option, go to an affiliated venue. Even a wall venue, I prefer IATF. But that means that then you can walk into different places and get the same experience. You also get some coaching. Even WATL venues will give you a base level of coaching to get you started. Unaffiliated venues aren't really required. They don't have the same kind of standards. So they just might hand you an axe and say, have a blast. You might just pick it up and figure it out and be great for you. Or you might drop for the next hour. And no one likes dropping an axe for an hour. It's just not fun. So the coaching is a better experience. And if you're just throwing in your backyard or in your house and stuff, you may not understand what you're doing wrong. And it might be a simple 3-second fix to get you from dropping every axe to sticking every axe. You'll never figure that out on your own. Or you might, I'm sorry. A very small percentage will figure it out on their own. Watch a video, YouTube's great. But it's gonna be so much better experience coming into a venue and doing that. So that's why I recommend it. How do you find them? That is a great question. There is no national database. There's a couple people trying. Despite the fact that the guy probably hates me, Chris Ross out of Total Axe does a good job maintaining a list. So if you go to Total Axe's website, even if you're not he's in Michigan, you can be nowhere near Michigan, but he means a list of axe throwing places that people can kind of put their name on. TF will, if you go to their website, will list out their sites where their venues are. WATL will do the same for their venues if you want to find their venues. Otherwise, you're just Googling axe throwing near me.
Okay.
And what pulls up. But call them up, ask them, hey, are you affiliated with WATL? Are you affiliated with IATF? If the answer is yes for either one of them, I'd recommend that over an unaffiliated. And don't get me wrong, there are some terrific unaffiliated venues, but there are, I think, diamonds in the rough.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, when you have that set of standards that people come in expecting, you really have an incentive to live up to that. So, yeah, I have to agree. Like, finding an affiliated venue lets you, have that base level of expectation. If somebody is looking at axes and they're like, I don't know if this is an axe I could throw or not. Obviously, there's a billion different kinds of axes out there, but what's kind of a general rule of thumb when you're looking at an axe to know whether it would be good for throwing?
For throwing?
For throwing.
That is a great question. Typically, if you want to, again, back to affiliation and rules, Most WATL and IATF axes have a 4-inch face. So I'm gonna steal this axe right in front of me. And by that I mean the blade is about 4 inches. So you want, like, if you see a big decorative axe that's huge, half moon, don't. It'll probably be too heavy. It won't throw as well. You're looking for something that's probably closer to what, for working axes, called a camp hatchet. Because these are actually, by the way, not axes. These are hatchets.
Right.
Anything that's shorter than, I think, about 19 inches is considered a hatchet. So we throw hatchets. And we throw axes too, but the axes are, we call them big axes. So yeah, so you're looking for a camp hatchet, because that's going to be about roughly, this is a shorter one, it'd be about roughly this size, and it's going to fit well in your hand. It's going to throw right. It's going to be anywhere from 1.5 pounds to 2.5 pounds. Maybe a little heavier if you're throwing the S-wings, because I think they go up to 3.5 because they're a metal handle. Mm-hmm. And so I would recommend sticking to wood handles, because this is where I'm going to get some angry comments. They're safer.
Okay.
Just as a rule of thumb, wood absorbs shock. So if you hit a handle straight on, it's going to absorb some of the shock. It's not going to bounce back at you less. Metal refracts energy. It's going to hit, it's going to come back the same
like
energy.
A spring.
Exactly. So typically, these will be safer.
Now, that's the safety question is actually another thing I want to ask you about. I think a lot of people, when they hear axe throwing, they think it sounds really dangerous, especially as we talked about. A lot of times it's in a bar, mm-hmm. People literally drinking their beer as they're playing this. Someone who hasn't been in that environment and seen it themselves, that sounds super dangerous. What sort of safety things should people be aware of? And if somebody is sort of imagining this and thinking it sounds really dangerous, what would you kind of say to explain some more of the sort of safety aspects of what happens?
Yeah, so this goes back to why I recommend affiliated venues, because WATL and IATF both have what they call a foul line. In our safety leash, we call it the kill line as well. The idea is when we are throwing, we do not cross this line until all axes come to a complete stop. The idea being is inside that area, it's kind of like, if there is going to be a bounce back, that's going to be the zone it's going to be in. So if you stay out of that area until the axes stop moving, you're going to be perfectly safe. As we tell people during our safety speech, the most common injury in axe throwing isn't the axe, splinters from the board, because people go smack their hand up against the board to pull the axe out, and they'll get splinters in their hand. That hurts, don't do it. Axes themselves are typically safe. I think people tend, even though they have that preconception that it's dangerous, so I think when they walk into it, they tend to treat this with a great deal more respect than they would doing other activities that seem safer. And that's because, I wish I could find I'm going to have to go dig up the stats and the references, but everything that's been taught in our industry for the last several years is the fact that we actually, per capita, have less injuries than bowling. Bowling actually has a crazy amount of injuries compared to axe throwing, but you don't think about it because a ball doesn't seem dangerous. Yeah. Axe does. But I think people tend to treat this with a great deal of respect than they do there. And again, most affiliated venues will have axe masters, axe coaches, whatever term they want to use for it. I think you guys call them chuckers.
Yeah.
On staff to give you a safety lecture, to give you some coaching, to take you from just throwing a sharp object around with no instruction to having instruction. And that alone makes the activity so much safer. I'm willing to bet the Burrows never had an injury.
Not of a guest.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Sorry. Customers, new people, tend to treat the axe with a lot of respect.
Yeah.
Employees, league members, way less so.
Yep.
We do a lot more dumb shit. But we customize our axes, we sharpen our axes, and because of that, they tend to cut a little bit more readily. But yeah, so we've never had a customer injury. As far as I'm aware, like Minnesota Axe, where I used to coach, has never had a customer injury. It's super rare.
Yeah.
And that's why I said it's actually super safe. The axes are lighter than people think. You don't have to throw them very hard. Once people realize that it's a finesse sport, not a strength sport, you can start kind of peeling back the hesitancy around danger, because you're not hucking this thing with all your strength. It's a dart. It's a very, very heavy dart, but it's a dart.
Right, exactly. One other thing I wanted to ask you about, I'm curious, your opinion on, if you go to like a Renaissance festival or something, mm-hmm. you can see different stunt shows where they throw axes and other sort of sharp things. Are these guys really skilled throwers to be able to do what they do? Are there tricks to it? Is it something where those skills are directly translatable, or is it kind of all show?
So, yeah. That's the other thing you'll learn with axe throwing. I'm going to step back and I'm going to step forward. Axe throwing, when we're talking about format, the axe does one full rotation before it hits the board. So the biggest thing to learn in axe throwing is, one, once you figure out how long your axe is where you stand. Because those are hard variables. Like the axe will be a certain length, where you stand are fixed. And once you learn those things and it makes one full rotation, it's a very repeatable process. Because it's just repetition. So when you get to those trick throwers, I'm not going to take away from their skill at all. They are very skilled. But what they've learned is they know how to throw a specific type of axe that they practice with from a specific distance to get a specific result. And then you practice that over and over again until the muscle memory makes it second nature. Is it transferable? To a certain extent. If I want to learn trick throwing, I do learn some trick shots, but I don't do as many as like some. If you want to logo in the axe throwing community, you want to learn trick shots, I'd recommend someone like Walthrax. Walthrax is his axe name. It's Walter something or other. Great at trick shots. Alan out of, I'm sorry, Alan, I know you're down south somewhere. Another great trick shot person. There's a couple really good people that can do it. They're also competitive axe throwers, but they know the difference. They know that they can do trick shots in a certain way because they've practiced them. And they'll do it over and over again until they know that if I take a 14-inch axe and I stand 15 feet away, it's going to do exactly this kind of rotation. Or if I want to throw it into a table or a chair or stool, like which is a trick shot, and bounce it up into a target. They're knowing the distance. It's like doing a bank shot in a pool. And know that this is the rotation that's going to hit and go up there. So it looks cool when you're watching from the outside, but there's a lot of math, there's a lot of repetition, there's a lot of thinking through the rotation into it. And that's why they can do it. So the Renaissance people, it comes down to practice. And I won't begrudge them their skill because I don't do it. I'm good at axe throwing in a very specific format. We also joke that all our training is going to help us for the zombie apocalypse. If the zombie is standing exactly 15 feet away, I know exactly how to hit them. If they're 17 feet or 9 feet, I might be screwed. So, yeah, I know how I can hit a bullseye at 99% if it's exactly 15 feet away, because I know exactly where to stand for that. Okay,
yeah, that makes sense. I know it's interesting. I'm going to go off on a tangent here just because I know you're into D&D.
Yep.
So I'm going to kind of go down that route for a second. In fantasy, there's a lot of tropes about thrown weapons, whether it's thrown axes or thrown knives, and you do throw knives here, correct?
Yep.
So when it comes to some of the things that we see either in our D&D games or fantasy movies or TV shows or anything like that, how sort of viable are these things as weapons in that sort of, if there's not a gun involved, you're in a fantasy environment, how viable are they and how unrealistic are some of these portrayals?
Oh, I'm going to get some angry corrections on this one, but for the most part, I'm going to include ninja stars in here because that's the common one that you see for movies. Ninja stars, knives, even like throwing axes in like warfare, were never meant as killing weapons. Ninja stars especially are distraction weapons. You throw them at someone's face, it's a way of bringing whatever weapon they have up to their face and then exposing their body. Axes are the same thing. It's a way of bringing people's shields up, making them address a different threat than you want them to. Now, if an axe hits you in the face the right way, is it going to cause serious injury? Absolutely. That's a side benefit. So yeah, they're made to kind of do that. It's not quite like archery and bows, where archery actually was made to kill. These are more made to wound, to distract, injure, and then allow people to get up close and actually do damage with a much bigger intended weapon. Yeah, so a lot of the movies, like everything else, is taking a grain of truth and making a rice pilaf out of it. I know I laugh because me and my son, who throws with me a lot, we were watching the new John Wick where he throws an axe from like a sitting position. We're like slowing it down. Like, did he do one full rotation? Is it a proper throw? Like, how CGI'd is this? How real is it? Because we're breaking down throws. Like, this is now, we're semi-experts in it. And so yeah, and the odds of like you see the one John Wick 3 where he throws an axe on someone's head. The ability for this to pierce like a skull, probably not going to happen. Now without a great deal of force. More than likely you're going to cause a very bloody gash in the head wound and it's going to bounce off. So yeah, can you hurt someone with an axe being thrown? Yes. Are you likely to kill them? No. Same with knives. Unless you hit in just the right way on a soft part, you're talking eyes and throat, are you going to kill someone? No. Hurt them? Sure. But you have to catch the rotation right. So are they going to throw their arms up to cover themselves and stop what they're doing? Yeah, and that's kind of what they're intended.
Awesome. That makes perfect sense. I kind of guessed that would be the answer, but it's good to hear it from an expert. So we kind of touched on the D&D thing a little bit more, but actually that's one thing you were telling me before that I thought was really interesting. You do D&D nights here, and obviously you enjoy D&D, but I'm curious, have you found that has helped your business, and is that kind of your intent with it, to sort of build the community, or how do you bring in that and any other sort of side things that build toward the main axe throwing business?
Yeah, that, again, weird thing, there was a weird overlap of, there's a bunch of us axe throwers that we, through talking to each other, found out that we all love playing D&D. The problem we ran into is we all love playing D&D. We don't all love being the DM. So everyone wanted to play, because we all, in our inner separate circles, usually DM'd for things. We want to be players. So it was a hard time. It actually took us months to find a DM. And so I have two groups going now. We have one that's kind of an informal, just a bunch of axe throwers. But it got going, and as it got going, I realized that there's some things I liked about it, there's some things I didn't like about it. But I had also found out there's other groups that have been doing what we call a paid dungeon experience. A great example is Bad Wolf. They host games up like at White Bear Meadery, where you pay $30 a night. They'll do one-shots or campaigns, and you have a DM that's going to walk you through and do all the experience. And what's nice about that is, I think, from the casual aspect, it's the difference between throwing casually at home and throwing in a league here. It's just a step above. And so I wanted to see if I can try to bring that here. Mostly because I'm kind of in the whole entrepreneur streak now, so I'm like, can I get into that market? And for me, I was like, can I use it as a way to, like I said, expand the community? And so funnily enough, the second group we did is a paid experience. So every other Tuesday we host. We have two, I'm going to call them professional DMs, because they're semi-professional. They get paid to do it. They're professional. But they're really good at it. But that group that comes in is actually 99% non-axe throwers. Now, they have since learned to throw an axe, but most of them are coming here strictly for the D&D. So it's great. We do it on a slow business night. It lets me keep this place open 5 days a week, or 7 days a week, versus just 5 days. Because usually Mondays and Tuesdays, most axe throwing places are closed because it's a very slow day for our business. I'm blessed in the fact that I have two very semi-active leagues on Monday, keeps my Mondays open, but Tuesdays is nothing. So instead of just letting this place sit empty, we fill it with people doing D&D. And for me, it's great. It's a different community. I love anything that is a community-based aspect now. I think axe throwing has made me love nerdy, niche communities. Because you just meet some very interesting people that you wouldn't normally run into. Odds of meeting you, for instance, if I didn't have axe throwing.
Yeah.
There. Or that I wouldn't have learned that competitive pinball is a thing.
That is a thing.
And so, but I learned these things. I learned from other axe throwing places, or axe throwers, because they all have varied interests. They have people that play D&D, and there's people who look at us like, you're a bunch of fucking nerds. And they're not wrong. But we, how do I say it? We have people that are heavy into like shooting, trap shooting, regular shooting, because they're former military. We have the nerds from school. We have the sports people that, I'm thinking of like Louis out in Michigan, who is, I think, semi-professional baseball. I think he actually signed for a college. He will probably send me a correction now pretty soon too again. This is where I'm actually bad with names. I'm bad with memory, so you're gonna find that out. But he does baseball at an almost professional level in an axe thrower. So for him, the sports transfers over. And there's a lot of people in axe throwing that were pretty good at college sports, whether baseball or whatever, and that athleticism transfers over. And then there's people like me who are just very good at bar things. And so it's just a different group of people.
Yeah.
I've learned more about, like from you, from competitive pinball, rope dancing and acrobatics from Lizzie out in Boston area. Different industries. You have people that do a lot in cars, and so it's just, yeah, I'm really appreciative of the community. I'm gonna circle back around to that. I love the community. So D&D was just a way for me to grow the community, and originally the hope was to get a bunch of axe throwers going into it, but it ended up pulling in other people, which is great. The guy that runs it is one of my league members, Andrew Oman. We call him Big Panda in league. Great guy.
Awesome. So as an entrepreneur myself, I'm going to ask you kind of a selfish question, but I think it'll bring value to other entrepreneurs out there. what's any piece of advice you would give to someone who's looking to start a small business like yours?
Oh, that is a great question, and I think the best answer is the worst. You're
not going to say don't do it.
No, you can make more money. That's kind of what it is. Not that you can make more money being an entrepreneur, it's just that you can start a business, completely fail, file bankruptcy, and tomorrow you can make more money. Jobs will be there, you can make more money. Don't be afraid to fail. And that's kind of where it got me in this thing is I kind of hit a point where I still may fail at this, but I'm going to fail trying. I'm going to fail trying doing it my way, putting my flavor on axe throwing and how I think it should be done. And I'm sure you kind of experienced a little bit yourself is the fear to fail is, I think, what stops a lot of people from getting into it. Or, hey, if I do this and it doesn't work, I'm going to get hit with all these bills or I'm going to go bankrupt. And I'm like, yeah, you might. You can make more money. Try it. At the worst that's going to happen is going to be you may only make it 3 to 5 years, and you may then fail for 5 years. But I guarantee you those 3 to 5 years will probably be the most stressful but most fun you've had because you're pursuing a dream. And remember that, and don't let the people that are haters and whatever take that away from you. Keep focused on the fact that you're doing something you love, because one, that's going to transfer to how you present to your customers. I have people come here that will drive past 3 other axe houses to come here because they love the energy I bring and they know that I love the sport. And I feel like this might be a slight knock at Burroughs. I'm not a corporate store.
We're not technically corporate. It's a owner not too dissimilar from yourself. He's been doing it longer, doing the entrepreneurship longer. But yeah, I get the idea. Like this place has so much more personality to it than a lot of other venues, and the fact that it's your thing, it's your baby, and you're here to make it special. I think that's a big part of it.
Right. We don't have the polish or the money to invest to make this prettier as some places are, but I always like to tell people, I compare this I think like Joe's Gym, like your local gym that is just bare concrete floors, but it has the equipment you need, it has the people you need, and it's where anyone can go, whether you're new, experienced, to come and practice and feel welcome. And like I said, I would actually, that comment was more of a knock on Bad Axe, which is a huge corporate chain.
I noticed you hadn't mentioned them yet. So yeah, that's fair. Well, I kind of got that vibe, but
like I said, nothing too bad against them, but you can definitely tell that they're run as a huge corporate chain. Same with Flannel Jacks. They're, I think, a 6-store chain based out of Canada. So what they can do is limited. Even Minnesota Axe, which I love, you can tell that some of their policies and stuff are dictated from more of a corporate atmosphere. Because Minnesota Axe is opened by Imagine Theaters, which is a huge chain. And so it affects what they can do. I can turn on a dime. If tomorrow I wanted to do something, I am the buck. I don't need to get approval from anyone. I don't need to whatever. I can just do it. And so I've done that. There's times where there's things I can do that, because I'm more nimble, I'm more personable, I can do that. I'm trying to think of a really good example. So Jave, who's a great thrower, wanted to throw a Big Axe marathon for his birthday. And so he just sent me a message like, hey, can we do this? I'm like, yeah, totally. When do you want to do it? And he gave me some dates. I posted it. We did it. We have some other kind of events similar to that coming up where people are just like, hey, this would be a cool idea. Can we do it? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Then the fact that we're throwing knives now was a new addition that we're doing. I cleared with my insurance, and we went with it. Another example is in December, I'm heading out to Minot, North Dakota, and I'm co-hosting a marathon that's going to be run underneath Perplebunny's Axe House, but the targets and the personnel are all going to be the traveling axe. So guy Tyler Jung's running that, and I ran it by IATF, and I asked him if I could do this, but it was just kind of like, I didn't have to get approval from a corporate overlord or a boss, whatever.
You just did it.
Just did it.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I reached out to IATF to get their blessings, and they support us. They're great, but I could just do it.
Yeah. That's one thing that has really driven me toward entrepreneurship is like that feeling of just being able to do it. And I get a lot of freedom at the borough, obviously, and they give me that. But that's one thing that kind of pulls me in that direction, and that's definitely an audience that I vibe with as well. So I think I'm hoping some of those people are watching and will have that same feeling.
Yeah.
So before we kind of sign off here, anything else that you are really dying to mention, or anything to the benefit of our viewers, whether they be axe throwers or entrepreneurs or just community builders?
Sure. So I'm going to circle back to an earlier topic. One of the things I wanted to do by opening this was to bring more bigger tournaments here to Minnesota. And in that vein, I have actually been blessed in the fact that I get to hold 2 of them coming up here. So in January, we will actually be hosting the IATF Central Region Championship. You have to throw at least 1 league to get the bid. So if you go in this tournament, whoever wins actually gets a bid directly to the international competition. If you throw at least 1 league, you get eligible for that. If you don't throw a league, you're still eligible to win the prize money, and there will be prize money. And then later that next year in May, I think it's May, I should know these dates, 17th, 18th, non-holiday weekend in May, we're hosting what's called the Midwest Major. It's actually one of the largest tournaments that IATF's holding. They have Grand Slams at the top, there's 4 or 5 of them, and then the majors. So we're hosting one of them here in Minnesota. So what I'm hoping is between those 2, I'm going to be able to introduce to the local community a chance to go to a major tournament without having to drive 3 states away. So I'm excited for that. Other things, no. I mean, we throw a lot of leagues. We have a lot of variety of leagues. We have our standard hatchet leagues with Big Axe as a tiebreaker. We have a Big Axe league. We have the largest women's league in the state on Wednesdays, which is why I go over to yours on Wednesdays to throw there, because I can't throw in that one. Mm-hmm. We are about to start some knife leagues on Sunday. If there's interest, we keep asking, but we might do a shovel league pretty soon.
Oh boy,
okay. Because we have shovels. I don't know if you saw them on the stump over there.
I did see the shovels, yeah.
And the idea is, if I can get, I always tell people, if you can get 5 people to sign up and pick a day, we'll host a league in pretty much anything. So hatchets, shovel, big axe, knives, we kind of do it all. We actually have a doubles league on Mondays, and by doubles I mean not a team of 2 people, but 2 people actually throwing at the same time, same target. It's a ton of fun. Lots of axes hit each other, handles get damaged, axes drop, but it's a blast. So we're doing that, and I'm going to have to apologize to Colin if Colin ever actually ends up watching this. He's one of the leaders of IATF. Once doubles league right now is currently in beta for IATF. Once it comes out of beta and actually gets finalized, one of the fast followers is going to become the ambidextrous league, and that's 1 person throwing 2 axes at the same target.
Oh boy.
And so that's coming soon as well. And so we have a couple of people waiting for it. The other thing that's coming is team leagues, and those are going to be more throwing on a team. Think of more like I don't do a lot of team sports, bowling league maybe?
Sure.
Yeah, where you have 5 to 7 or 5 to 15 people on a team, 5 people throw a night, it's a head-to-head match, 3 out of 5 of the wins goes on, whatever. They're still kind of working out the bugs in the format, but that's coming, and that's kind of where I think the sport's growing and expanding. It's very new. So that's where I'm really excited. So if someone's interested, get involved now, because you'll learn it, your input will actually help form the sport going forward. And very rarely does people get a chance to catch a new growing sport and have input at the beginning of it. Like, you go through a dart league, it is what it is. It is not changing for you. They don't give a shit about you. They like your money, but darts is darts.
Yep.
Pool is pool. I don't know how the pinball community is, but I'm pretty sure that's pretty static at this point.
Yeah. I mean, there's some things that are changing, but there's some things that won't. I guess I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of things that have been around for a long time that are pretty static. They are what they are. Axe throwing is still trying to grow. It's still trying to figure out what it wants to be as an adult. WATL is about to go through a really big rule change next year. IATF is having conversations about changing their rules, not quite to the drastic way. Wow, I caught myself before I said dumb. Way WATL is, but they want to be careful about it. But they're changing, because what the sport was, unfortunately for both formats, it got too easy. People were throwing perfect games, and how do we make this challenging, while also making it available to newcomers? And so they're grappling. Both affiliations are grappling with this question, and they're approaching it from different directions, and it's great. It just means the sport's growing. So you get to be part of that. It's a lot of. If you don't like change, maybe avoid it. But if you like learning and changing and having input, this is a great time to start learning.
Awesome. We hadn't really gone there yet, but now that you kind of went that direction a little bit, let's talk about the WATL changes, because it's something that my venue is having to deal with, and I want to hear your honest opinion on what's going on, and just a very brief, obviously people watching might not know all the details,
Yeah.
but a very brief reason of why this is maybe not a good idea from your perspective.
So there are definitely a lot of strong feelings about this, and I've expressed them in a couple different formats to the point that WATL is actually currently muted. I didn't say banned, but they've muted me from posting on their discussion forums because I've been overly critical, and it's a fair assessment. I have been critical. So they're kind of grappling with the fact that, and I don't know how long you've been throwing WATL, but they went from a really big bullseye, kind of like IATF, to a very small bullseye. And people are still throwing perfect games, and so they're trying to figure out a way to make it challenging. And that one of their stated goals is they want to make it more strategic. I hate that argument for two reasons. One is a completely grammar Nazi pedantic way, is the fact that they're not talking about strategy, they're talking about tactics. They want people to make tactical choices inside of a game, okay? Because they're going from one bullseye to 5 bullseyes. And once you hit a single bullseye, it locks out and you're forced to go to another one. And then at throw 5, you switch over to the other side, they all unlock again. So you can choose, okay, do I hit the center bullseye? Do I go left next? Do I go right? Knowing that the bottom left might be my hardest bullseye, do I start with that one or do I end on that one? So choices are there. No argument there. There are choices. Tactical choices because they're within a small game. A strategic choice would be, I'm going to go 100% kill shots my entire season. That's a strategic choice. Sorry, that's my pandemic argument on why they're talking about tactical versus strategic. And then their kill shots are becoming bigger with smaller ones inside of them, which is fine. I throw at ITF, which has a box inside their premier one, so I get it. Where I don't like it is that it's making the game complicated. It's making it in a way that's harder to understand for a new thrower. And they're introducing a lot of rule changes to make it harder. My biggest soapbox that I've been arguing WATL forever is they currently have 3 different divisions they compete in. Hatchet, which is their standard, Big Axe, and then duels. And currently, all 3 have similar rule sets, but also very different rule sets. Hatchet, you throw 10 throws, 2 kill shot attempts. Currently, Big Axe is 5 throws with 1 kill shot attempt, but it's only on the 5th throw. Whereas with duels and Hatchet, you can do it on any of the throws. Duels is 5 throws, you can make 2 kill shot attempts on any throw, but you have to alternate. They can be made by the same person, but you do have to alternate kills, or they can be made by either one from each person. So it's very different rules, and unless you really are into the sport and understand it, you probably have no idea what's going on. If I made the argument that if they made every discipline 10 throws, 2 kill attempts, they'd be the same. That way, for instance, you or me or anyone else watching can grab it, turn on ESPN, see what's going on, and understand and be able to follow along for the most part because they're similar. It's going to get even worse next year because now you're going to have to track, okay, the person on the left hit the upper left and the person on the right hit the bottom right, and they both hit the center, then they went this way, and then they changed sides, and now it's unlocked, and now we're tracking 5 dots again. And what they're trying to do, it becomes much more complicated. And I think in going that direction, they kind of lost the real gem of what axe throwing was, is that it was very simple to understand, very simple to learn, very hard to master. And that's what the beauty of the sport was. It should be simple to understand, it should be simple to do, it should be very hard to master. And that's where I think the rule changes kind of jumped the shark a little bit for WATL, is they made something that was fun and interesting for people who've been throwing axe for a very long time, because they understand the rules, they understand different games they've been playing for years there. So for them, they can follow along. It's not that hard because they already understand the basic concepts. Someone new coming in isn't going to want to do that because it makes something that was simple and easy and fun more like work. I also think that for venues, it's going to be a hassle to draw a target with 5 bullseyes. I don't know if that's something like you guys are considering. Like I said, it's something you have to consider is like, do I want to draw this really complex rear target that only 6 people need?
Right.
Because that's currently what our league is, 6 people. And even if it doubled, even if you had 12 people in your league and you had twice the size, would you want to have to draw that target week, at the very least once a week, for those 12 people? Would your regular customers even care? Or they're perfectly happy throwing at a single bullseye right now? So that's, I know you're trying to play political a little bit more, but that's fine. That's where I think they get in there. And IATF is kind of having that same conversation right now. They're like, how can we make the game harder but more approachable? Now, currently IATF has 2 formats. Standard and Premier. Premier is the harder rule set. Using the same target with slightly variations, so everything's kind of the same. It's still 15 throws, 3 rounds. You just go from being majority of your acts in the bullseye to 100% of your acts in the bullseye to score it. So it's a simple change. But they're even looking at numbers, and right now, I think it's less than 20% of their current league population play Premier. So they're wondering how can we get more people over to the format, because the regional championship or the main championship are all thrown into the Premier rules. So that could be a hard adjustment if you go from throwing Standard to Premier. So there's talk right now, they feel like the community is divided. There's a Standard community and a Premier community, and they want to merge that. So IATF is really kind of having that conversation about, do we keep them separate? Do we create some kind of hybrid rules that's kind of a combination of the two that will make Standard throwers harder, Premier throwers probably a little easier, makes it more approachable? Is that what we want to do? And so they send out a huge survey, and they're polling, but where I think the big difference is, WATL came up with the new rules and then told the community for feedback. IATF is getting feedback from the community before even writing the rules.
Sure.
And I think that's the better approach, because this is definitely a community-driven sport. You need the community on board, because I think WATL, and this is again my opinion, I think the way they're going about it is they're going to lose throwers, because throwers are already saying they're not going to throw next year, and they're going to lose venues, because I don't think venues are going to want to go through the nonsense. Not for leagues, because most venues make more money on corporate events, more money on walk-ins. Leagues is a small part of their business. It can be a fun, great part of the business, but dollars and cents, it's a small part of the business. The boroughs can completely drop WATL, and they lose 6 to 10 league throwers a season, maybe. Your regular business will not feel the impact.
Right.
Same with, now I won't say that, I will not say the same. Leagues are about a third of my business, because I'm a huge league-focused place. It'd make a difference to me. So other venues are going to have to make that choice. And so there has been a lot of accusations that what WATL was kind of an elite thing, where they made changes for the elite throwers. I don't think that. I do think that some very top throwers pushed them in this direction without talking to the community at large. And that's where sometimes echo chambers can kind of hurt. You got to be able to talk to other people. So I don't know. We'll see how it turns out. I do not like the new rules. The funny thing is, the part I don't like about it, like the bulls as I mentioned, is the part that is least hated about the changes. The more hated rule change is the 15-foot line. And so they're going, for people watching, they have a 12-foot foul line now. What's going to happen is, for advanced throwers like me, after throw 5, on the second set, on the back half, we have to throw from a 15-foot foul line. So we have to move back 3 feet. The compromise, or the caveat now, is we're allowed to do rotation and a half throws or double rotation. And so for us, me personally, it makes no difference. I can throw a rotation and a half from 15 feet just fine. So that rule doesn't affect me. And I think that's a good rule. Moving back, where I got really gripey about this, is the fact that WATL, in recognizing that they do not have enough league throwers at the advanced level, or that want to throw at that advanced level, is not splitting that off into its own league. What they're going to do is they're going to have, and I apologize, I'm going to call you an amateur thrower.
Sure, that's fine. I am. I'm not. I don't go to tournaments, or haven't yet. So.
Yeah. So what's going to happen is they're going to have it so that we're going to throw in a match, but I'm going to throw underneath advanced rules because I'm an advanced thrower, and you're going to throw underneath amateur rules because you're an amateur thrower, in the same match, head to head. So we're essentially playing a game with 2 different rule sets, and that doesn't make sense to me. I think that for an amateur thrower, it's going to cheapen the win, because even if you do beat me, did you really? Because it's with a handicap. So there's always going to be like an asterisk next to your win. And me personally, I would never actually tell you that, like, hey, you really didn't win. I'd congratulate, like, hey, good job. I mean, like last 2 days ago, Wednesday, when Caesar, I got his right name right, beat me, I didn't whine and moan. Like, congratulate him, that's great. Take the wins where you can. Anyone can throw a shitty day, anyone can throw a great day. Take the wins when you can. But I was talking to one of my league members when the rules came up, and she also made the comment that goes, like, that's one concern. But the other concern is it actually makes the losses worse, because now if I can beat you throwing from a harder rule set from farther away, how does that make you feel as a new thrower? It just kind of highlights the gulf a little bit.
Yeah.
So my big thing is, I think everyone should be throwing the same rule set. We're either going to all throw from the 15-foot line, or we're all going to throw from the 12-foot line 100% of the time. And then that way it makes our games the same game. The problem with that is now, because they're throwing different games, and they've already kind of had that problem a little bit this year because pro league throwers have to do at least 50% kill attempts in order to stay in pro league. So that means now I'm forced to go kills if I want to stay in pro league, which means that sometimes I'll miss 2 kills, and someone who normally would never beat me does. Great, but had I just stayed down, I would have won. It's you kind of have to grapple that a little bit. My feeling, and I think a lot of people are getting to this point now, is that the way WATL is going is that leagues, for anyone that wants to compete like I do, they're no longer a league. It's just me doing qualifying throws.
Right.
I'm throwing a score, I'm going home. I don't care what my opponent does, because win, lose, whatever they throw, doesn't affect my path to Worlds. I think that takes away from the joy of leagues. Contrast, IATF, the wins matter in the fact that we get a CRS score that kind of ranks us globally based on that. And if anyone from IATF watches this, you're going to get some angry comments about how CRS is stupid, doesn't matter, it's pointless, and they're going to be 100% right and also wrong. Because CRS does what it accomplishes. It gives someone to show improvement. You win, you go up, you lose, you go down. So you can see tracking that, but it's based off wins. So now wins matter. I care about the game I'm in. I care about what my opponent's doing. They care about what I'm doing. We're now present in our game. And I think that makes leagues important. And so there's definitely more of a feeling of, I think, community and presence in IATF leagues versus WATL leagues. So, I don't know, lots of words to basically sum up that I think the changes are bad and are going to hurt WATL. I'm going to pound this drum. One last item on this. My biggest pet peeve over these rule change discussions is so many people are so immersed in one culture or the other. I live in both worlds, but there are some people who only throw WATL. That's all they know. And so when they complain about the rules, they kind of confuse WATL for the sport of axe throwing. And they say, oh, this is going to hurt the sport. It's not going to hurt the sport. It's going to hurt WATL. IATF doesn't give a shit what they do with the rule changes. IATF's been around longer. They will continue to be around. There are other smaller leagues starting. I will give a shout out again to Chris Ross, who does not think very highly of me, but he has started what he calls the World Blade League, because he thinks he has a better format than both WATL and IATF. And I'd say more power to him for trying things, because again, the sport is new. Try things. Things are going to fail. Things are going to be broken, get changed around. We're still trying to figure out what this is. There's another small organization that started 2 years ago that does very little, but it's kind of curious. Major League of Axe Throwing, MLAT. They base it on bowling. It's a 10-ring target. If you hit a 9, you have to hit a 1 to pick up the spare. 10 throws, or 10 frames. In the last frame, they have little triangles and circles for how to pick up, like, do the 10th frame. But it's very similar to how bowling is scored. So a 300 is a perfect game in that one.
Okay.
But what's nice about that, and I think what I really wish they had grown more, and still do, is it gets you to use more of the board. The biggest problem right now with both IATF and WATL is because we have some really good throwers. All they do is they drill the bullseye. Wednesday, watching me and Caesar go back and forth hitting so many bullseyes, you saw how quickly we chewed up the one center on that board, yeah, and how quickly it became very nearly unscorable.
Yep.
Because we're trying to hit the small spot over and over and over again. Where now, like, you hit a 9, now you have to go way out and hit a 1, or if you hit an 8, you may go over to the right and hit a 2. You're using more of the board. Now, that is one of the reasons why, to circle back around, the WATL wants the 4 bullseyes too, is they want to try to spread the damage out a little bit. I don't know. We'll see how that pans out. I don't have a WATL manual. As you can see, I do throw up my practice WATL targets there, but for me, I only care about the 4 ring and inwards.
Yeah.
So I'm not drawing the whole thing. But I do it that way so that I can use the center, the 2 boards on the side. If I had just a regular WATL target, I wouldn't be hitting those spots. So there's a couple different things where when you're looking at the sport as a thrower, you have concerns or you have things that are important to you. As a league runner, your world expands a little bit because you have to think, as your boss that owns the boroughs, he has to consider from a business aspect what's going to affect this. And there are some people that are making that choice. Why the 15-foot rule is so hated by many is because there are many venues that they don't have the room to go back to 15 feet. I mean, the boroughs is close. They have enough room. But had you moved those tables any closer inwards, you wouldn't have.
Yeah.
And some places are like that. their tables are about 2 feet closer than yours are, and they can't go back to 15 feet. It's the same reason why they don't host Big X leagues now. So I am curious to see what's going to happen. I think it's a bad idea, but I'm also a single person, a thrower in an IATF venue, not a WATL venue. So in the way that it affects me is very limited to just as a thrower. And as a thrower, my concern for the sport. I think WATL does a lot of good things. I just don't think this is one of them.
That's fair. All right, well, this has been awesome.
Sure.
This is a great discussion. I know we talked about a little bit of this stuff before, but I enjoyed talking with you so much. I felt like everybody would want to hear it and see it as well. So this has been great. Once more, just for anybody who's kind of curious about what you do, could you tell us how to find your venue for anybody that's in the state or wants to come visit your venue here in Minnesota, as well as if you have any sort of online presence or any way that people can kind of follow along with you outside of this local area?
Yeah, so if you want to come here, just search Perplebunny. They'll pull up. I am the one, the only.
P-E-R-P.
P-E-R-P, yeah.
Yep.
But we do have a Facebook page that you can follow, both a business page and a private group page that you can chat on. And then there actually is a Facebook group called the Midwest Axe Throwers that actually is much more of a regionally there that we post things in. And I'd go there too so you can see other venues, because that one is actually, again, all affiliations. So you'll see posts from like 608 and 715 axe throwing houses out of Wisconsin. They're owned by some amazing people.
Maybe I should be posting in there.
You should be.
Okay.
If you want some, I will tell you right now, that will be your way to steal league members from Bad Axe.
Okay.
Because they just don't know you exist or that you're holding leagues.
Right.
I know about it because I'm a nerd that follows things. I saw when you guys got affiliated because your name popped up on the list.
Right.
But yeah, so that's a good way to find out and find out tournaments. So US Axe posts in there, like 715, who's owned by Sarah out of there, posts in there. So does 608. I post in there. Minnesota Axe not so much. They should though. But it's a good way to find other things regionally. Or you can follow our Facebook page. We post there. The other national page to follow is the Sport of Axe Throwing. That's if you don't care about affiliation, because that's everything. WTL has their discussion forum. IATF also has a discussion forum. Facebook. So honestly, a lot of words to say. Get on Facebook. It is actually where a lot of coordination and posting happens for any axe throwing. Mm-hmm. So by the way, Burroughs should be on Facebook more for axe throwing, if you want people. If you want league throwers and professional throwers. Right. Other than that, yeah, we have a website. We post things. We are probably going to get a YouTube channel started up here pretty soon so we can post some stuff, because we want to do some training photos, or training videos. We want to do some other fun stuff. One of the things that I'm working on coming, I'm going to not say it right now, but we have a nice new technology that's going to come that's going to be really fun. And once I have that out, you'll see some videos on that as well.
Okay, we're teasing something cool.
Yeah.
And they're going to see that on your Facebook page when it's available.
Correct.
Okay.
It's my goal of how can we make the sport better? How can we make throwers better? Because right now it's a lot of trial and error. As you can see from what I have lying around here, compared to most axe throwing places, I have more variety of axes ready to throw for people to try different things, because finding what you like is hard. And that's always been a goal of mine. In fact, this is part of the reason I opened my own place, because I had an idea that I wanted to do, but I worked for Minnesota Axe, corporate owned, didn't want to do it. And getting kind of turned down on good idea after good idea, I'm like, yeah, I'll do my own thing. So yes, Facebook page is the best way to get a hold of us or find out what we're doing. We post all our events on there. We do have a website you can read there, but Facebook.
Awesome. Well, this has been great. Once again, thank you so much, and I'll see you at the championship on Wednesday, I guess, right?
Yeah. I'm still planning to make a trophy for you guys.
I appreciate that. So thank you so much, and that's all for now.
All right.